Love Canal, a discussion on environmental pollution in a small community by Madeline Bailey. Beginning in the early 1950s in Love Canal, New York, we saw our first example of human-induced environmental pollution. Most people believe that justice came swiftly and that the situation was handled well by the state of New York and the companies responsible. I believe that the people of Love Canal only received justice because members of their community stepped up and refused to stay silent when they were faced with this unfair situation. Hazardous waste is a problem we have faced throughout history and a problem we continue to face today. Where the waste comes from can depend on various factors, but the real issue is cleaning up that waste and ensuring that the parties responsible are held liable for their actions and contribute to the cleanup of these sites. One of the most notorious hazardous waste sites in history is Love Canal. Love Canal is a primary example of a small community fighting for justice from these companies when it should have been an automatic response. In the early 1890s, William Love began a project that he thought would change the world. His plan was to build a model city using hydroelectric power he would divert from Niagara Falls. This plan's failure will become crucial to the story of Love Canal. While Love's idea was great, his timing was a bit off. Nikola Tesla's invention of the alternating current undercut Love's effort because it eliminated the need to be in the immediate vicinity of the source of the hydroelectric power. Due to this and the fact that Love simply did not have enough money, the project was abandoned by Love's sponsors and eventually abandoned by Love himself. Elon Hooker founded his company in 1903 under the name the Development and Funding Company. The company was built in Niagara, New York because of the Niagara Falls and other nearby resources. In 1922, Hooker bought S. Wonder & Sons Company to expand to retail sale of lye and chlorinated lime. In 1968, Hooker Chemical was bought by Occidental Chemical and business boomed, which led to a need for more dump sites. Occidental Chemical had similar company sites in places like Montauk, Michigan, which led to similar cases of chemical waste pollution. At the time, there were little to no state laws on chemical dumping anywhere in the U.S., and most Americans were unaware of the effect that actions like these would have on their futures. While used by many corporations and even the U.S. military, Hooker Chemical is no doubt the most notorious company to gain possession of the Love Canal. Hooker Chemical used the Love Canal to dump chemicals from their company branch in Niagara. They used the canal for many years. During the baby boom from the mid-1940s through the 1960s, the LaSalle region of New York's population shot up drastically. This brought the need for more housing and more schools. This led the Niagara School Board to purchase the dump site from Hooker Chemical. The Niagara School Board purchased the dump site for only $1. Hooker Chemical advised them against the purchase and noted in their contract that the land was contaminated, and from there on out, Niagara claimed all liability and risk for any event that might occur in the future. Even with Hooker Chemical's advisory against the purchase, Niagara continued, and they were faced with problems almost immediately upon beginning with building. The foundation of the original 99th Street School was originally planned to be built directly on the waste ditch, but sank into the chemical pit. In order to avoid this hazard, the school was moved 30 yards to the north. After the school building came the construction of the houses. They lined the canal, and some of their backyards overlapped into the chemical ditch. Lois Gibbs moved to Love Canal with her first husband, who was a chemical worker, in 1972. In 1978, she discovered the truth about the chemicals that had been buried beneath the school her son attended. These chemicals would eventually leak into the backyards and basements of Love Canal. This caused many major health issues, most of which had been previously unexplainable. Some of these health issues included various types of cancer, circulatory issues, increased risk of heart attack, respiratory issues, digestive issues, poisoning, increased risk of suicide, and various birth defects, such as 3 ears, a double row of teeth, and various intellectual disabilities. This convinced Lois Gibbs that these chemicals were the cause of many of her community's problems. Determined to fix this, she started to speak up. She organized many rallies and protests and conducted research. She was set on holding Hooker Chemical responsible and getting her and her neighbors out of Love Canal. This was countered with advertisements from Hooker Chemical, which had been used all throughout their history as a company. In fact, advertisements were one of the main reasons Hooker Chemical continued to expand so rapidly. By slightly altering the purpose of their products, they could appeal to larger audiences depending on what their chemicals were being used for at the time. This same tactic was used when they were faced with controversy. By having their employees voice their anger at these so-called false accusations, they could convince the people that the accusations were misguided. In the summer of 1978, the confusion that many of the community members were experiencing had turned into anger. They were not being taken seriously by their higher-ups, and nothing was being done about the cause of their illnesses, even when the cause was well known. This inspired many members of the Love Canal community to join in the protests and voice their anger at their situation. After many tests and protests from the LCHA and other citizens and organizations at Love Canal, the immediate area surrounding 102nd Street was temporarily evacuated. Love Canal was declared an emergency declaration area, and evacuation was recommended for pregnant women and children under 2. This further angered the residents of Love Canal. The state's order only affected a small number of people. People who were not ordered to evacuate were still at Love Canal and not being taken seriously. Eventually, after much protest, the people of Love Canal were evacuated. They were originally provided with benefits that served no purpose other than to silence them. After further anger still, President Jimmy Carter paid market price for all the houses in Love Canal and provided the people who wanted to move a means to do so. Love Canal is credited with being the first Superfund site and aiding in its creation. The Superfund law allows the EPA to clean up sites faced with an environmental disaster and forces the party responsible to help clean up or provide reimbursement. Love Canal today shows us how important it is to speak up for what is right and to continue to speak up until we are heard. Residents of Love Canal only receive justice because they chose to debate with the people who were supposed to be responsible for their safety. Love Canal is not a singular event, and other events just like it could happen at any time. This is why it's important to remember the community members of Love Canal and how they handled the injustice they were dealt. Love Canal shows us how even the smallest community member can make a difference.